That said, welcome everyone to FATED Connections episode number 88. We're about 2.5 weeks into Path of Exile 3.19 Lake of Kalandra, but to most of us it feels like we've already been through a very intense first month. There's updates, adjustments, community feedback, and a whole lot of things happening. And we're all not quite sure whether after the final round of changes, after the final iteration, everything is in a good spot right now. Probably most of us are still expecting some adjustments, but this is the time of the league where GGG usually retreats and starts working exclusively on the, future content that is to come. But, I ramble long time and make little sense. Before I go on, let's welcome our guests. Today we're joined by Mairian and piebypie. Hi, Mairian. Long time no see. How have you been? Glad to have you on.
Hello. I'm back, I guess, for me. Work's busy, so it's kicking my ass, playing less, streaming less, so it's what it is. That's basically that. Waiting for winter to go really ham on PoE. But, I still managed to get my 40-40, so I'm happy.
Yeah,
you
got your challenges last league, and this league, are you already on 40-40 as well? No, you're not there.
Oh, no. I've done 20, and today, this league, challenges are so much easier than last league. It's actually kind of crazy. I think they backtrack. Maybe they knew that it's going to go down badly, these changes, and they were like, okay, let's make the challenges easy, and the rewards kind of nice, so people stick around longer. Something like that.
Yeah, I've heard from Sarah. I'm sure we're going to talk about it in detail a little bit, but I've heard that challenges this league are not that hard and actually quite doable. I've seen a number of people already post their accomplishment that they, pretty much done with challenges for this league, reaching their 38 or whatever their goal was. How have you been, Pi? Welcome back on the podcast. I'm glad to have you on here.
Hi. It's nice to be back. Thanks for having me back. I had 6 weeks off of streaming before this new league, and then I missed the actual start of the league because I had IRL stuff. And it turned out it was a fairly smooth launch, but the game state was a little probably if there was any league that you could miss, it might have been this one. So I'm doing all right. It's kind of funny because it is as stressful and tense as the community feels at the moment about the game. I'm playing more than I have in a really long time. I feel like it's out of spite, man. I feel like I'm gonna figure it out. I gotta see this for myself. So that's how the vibe, I think.
I can
that,
relate
and also
to that
I'm really
so
enjoying my builds.
What build are you playing?
I'm playing Kirby's Venom Gaia Deadeye, but I've just now gone through the stage of in my very, very slow, casual, solo self-found kind of way, the gap between the trade version of adequate gear and the SSF version of, the in between that and the trade gear, which becomes the aspirational gear, really. So I'm learning from I'm getting a lot of help and learning about how to get myself there, and a lot of essences.
Yeah, really. What else is it going to be this league other than a lot of essences?
Yeah,
fractured items and essences.
The fractured items have not been good to me, but I have my fingers crossed. I hold out hope.
I mean, at least you're getting some flask, it seems. Yeah, fractured
and some
items.
blacksmith's whetstones.
Yeah. Those are generous this league.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a good fractured item myself, from the actual arch nemesis thing. But tracking back to what you said in the beginning, that you're in the situation where you took a long break and then ended up playing a lot more than you did in the past, I can totally relate to that because I myself dialed back my play hours quite a bit after the last gauntlet in 3.18 and basically like went completely incognito mode and didn't play any Path of Exile other than like doing a little bit of a leveling practice run in the couple of days leading up to the league. And then even when the league started, I didn't play that much, but now I find myself more and more excited to keep on playing than I would normally be at this point of the league. And it may be also that I'm playing a fun build finally, because at first I was playing Absolution Guardian, but then I died once and then I made the same build again and I died a second time. And now I'm on my third character and I'm actually doing the Herald of Agony Occultist. And I mean, I don't think I've played Herald of Agony since like 2 years or 3 years, like since it was a Juggernaut meta kind of thing. And now doing it on Occultist.
Agony.
Yeah, it's so outdated,
That's
right?
a while back.
Yeah. With the endurance charge stacking and stuff. It was really good back then. So my Occultist version is a lot more squishy, but there's new tech that didn't exist back then when I was playing, and that new tech is Storm Rain. And holy shit, Storm Rain, for as clunky as it is as a direct damage skill, it's like a godsend. It's like made to sustain Herald of Agony virulent stacks. Because you shoot those arrows and they stick in the ground, and then they shoot arcs of lightning between them, and they hit so many times. It's so good to sustain virulent stacks on single target with it. And yeah, obviously, like a lot of things automated in the build. I'm doing Curse on Hit with Mark of Submission Ring, so I got Despair on Hit for the Rain of Arrows and the Storm Rain, and I got Mark on Hit from the Mark on Hit support gem. So single targets are automatically double cursed with Despair and Sniper's Mark. And yeah, all I do is like flame dash around and shoot out arrows. And it's been a blast. But now slowly, as opposed to the Absolution Guardian, this build actually makes me go toe to toe with Arch Nemesis monsters, and some encounters are a little bit more scary than I would like, especially as a squishy occultist. And I just did Uberlap before the podcast started, and I had to run away from Uber Argus. It was just too scary. I couldn't do it.
I've run away from
Hardcore
Argus
gameplay.
I've run away from Argus in softcore. I don't think that's that bad. I've started fighting them and then be like, oh nope, gotta go.
Baylor gave me such a hard time because I've been running around with this like pretty subpar claw for a while, but I'm just like thinking back to when I went through Uber Lab and I had the shit claw on when I went through Uber Lab, and Argus was like done. I was like, I don't. This build is strong if it has the right gear.
Yeah, especially with like if you already farmed a whole bunch in the zone, going up to Argus, you get your Plague Bearer, right? And if you unload all the damage stored in the Plague Bearer and you apply poisons and everything, single targets.
Oh, I'm not doing poisons. It's you, right? Your poisons,
wait,
right?
What? You're not.
I'm
doing poisons at all?
elemental, man.
Oh, you're elemental venom guy. Okay.
Yeah, with Trinity.
Okay.
I keep forgetting to clarify that because venom sounds poisonous by default.
Yeah, I thought that was like the default niche that you're like sort of pigeonholed into. With
no, it's very similar build to Lightning Shot in terms of gear. So
yeah, so it's basically
you want
like
flat elemental damage of all types and scaling crit and elemental damage at the attack.
So basically like a Spectral Throw or a Spectral Helix build, like elemental bust.
Yeah, actually,
archetype.
Alistair was in my stream earlier and he goes, what do you think of this playstyle compared to Spectral Throw? And I was thinking back to when I was leveling with Spectral Helix and I mixed up the two, and so I sounded like a dickhead saying I don't like it. But I've never actually played Spectral Throw past like, taking what's her name? I keep forgetting what she's called. Scion. I knew it started with an S. I'm really struggling with words at the moment. Anyway, so taking her in to town to get stuff. She screams too much. I never get that far with her. Her scream's really
like
annoying.
my ex-husband. Oh man. Yeah, Scion is an acquired flavor. I don't know whether you can ever fully acquire it.
The moment where you could turn the dialogue down, and I was like, but then I can't hear the bosses, and I kind of need to hear them, right?
Yeah, voice cues are
It's the
super
same
essential for
one.
boss fights.
But some people play with even with combat sounds off and swear by it, and I hate it.
I did it for a little bit, but it was weird.
I think the performance gain is absolutely not worth the loss of like feedback and like feeling. I mean, the game has so much like visceral feel through its sound. You really notice that when the sounds are off. Mairian, what is your build for context? I have no idea. We haven't heard from you yet.
I went full meta because I was like, I don't miss out on a good skill when it's introduced. So I'm playing Lightning Conduit. But I'm not the kind of person that scales it where usually scale my characters to above and beyond. So I just stay to the mediocre scalage. And so I think I've reached the ceiling for this build for now. Because I'm not because a lot of people are going for prototype, and apparently that one is the way to get like insane damage on that build. And I'm not gonna do that. So yeah. I killed Maven today. I killed Awakener today. They were okay. The damage, it's just a single target damage leaves a little bit to be desired for comfy. And Uber bosses, this is not going to be the build to kill Uber bosses without maybe going prototype. So I'm like, you know what? I dropped Awaken custom crit. Maybe I go on custom crit build next, like something. But yeah, I'm like one build Andy these past few leagues. And I just play the same build and do the challenges and then say hasta luego to the game.
I mean, that makes total sense. Makes total sense if your main focus is actually getting the challenges done, then doing more than one reroll is super counterproductive, right? I mean, right now, maybe this league...
play Lightning Conduit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends. Like, if you want to go more, I try to do everything on my own. But if you try to do things on your own and your build that you're currently playing is just like, for example, Uber bosses, I don't know. Like Uber Exarch is 100%. Even normal Exarch was a super sus on that build. So I don't know if I Uber Elder, Uber Maven, Uber Awakener. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Uber Awakener is just such a pansy. I don't know. I already struggled with it last week, but my build was... Ignite builds are just so beautiful. Just apply damage and then just run around. So it's just so beautiful, Ignite builds. I love them. So I was playing Ignite build last league, and I could kill all the bosses on my own. That was nice. But this league, I think I have to reroll for some kind of juicier deeps to kill Uber bosses. For the challenges.
Yeah, you might be right. Like, probably if you go into Doriani's prototype and you do a whole lot of min-maxing, it will be doable on that build, but you're going to put a lot of effort into it, and it's still going to be a struggle to actually do those fights. Might be better if you just invest everything into, like, a good boss killer that can do it on half the investment. But any specific reason why you didn't want to do... Doriani's prototype? Is it just like too much effort and you'd rather put it into a different build, or?
I don't think it's maybe not necessarily more effort, but like Doriani's prototype itself already, the body armor is quite expensive. And then to get rid of the downsides, because lightning legions are pretty nasty for that, and then I will have to re-gear because you need to get the negative res, and I don't know, it just seems like a bit too much effort because I already have the character established as it is right now.
Yeah.
With all the gear, and then I have to change the body armor, then I have to manage the other resistances and so on and so forth, and it's like too much effort.
Yeah,
it's easier to make a build that's dedicated for single target.
Yeah. Yeah, totally on board now. I understand. I think I'd love to see the build though, like looking at how it goes and stuff. It would be amazing to see it when you're actually like reducing enemy resistance to negative, because it'd be so much more damage. Please go ahead.
No, well, I have people come in chat and they are playing Doriani's prototype, and they're saying like the damage is insane, so good, and they swear by it. But I just know, I don't know. In my mind, it's too much effort to change to it. And also the chess piece is expensive, and I mean, if I manage to get the chess piece myself somehow, maybe I would consider it, but having to buy it, I'm like, I'd rather invest that money into a build that is dedicated for single target or something, yeah.
I did see an assassin doing Doriani's prototype with that that had 300 mil on single target, and someone showed it to me and was like, "Excuse me, I found a problem. Could you find out where this creator has fudged their work to make it say 300 mil?" And I opened it up fully intending to find the fudged numbers, and there were no fudged numbers anywhere. It was doing 300 mil.
I mean, that must have been some super sexy gear, though. Super sexy gear.
You know, it wasn't even that good.
How much crit mode?
Maybe 60 to 80 divines worth? Which sounds like a lot to a lot of people, but for 300 million DPS, that ain't that much.
Yeah, sounds like
that's really one-shots the bosses, doesn't it?
Yeah, he had little clips of him doing Uber bosses. He had to cast like 6 times. It was like, that boss is dead.
I mean, honestly, sounds too good to be true, but I mean, probably it's possible. I mean, this game is still crazy.
I will never experience something like that in my life.
Exactly.
That's how I know I'm the casual. It's never going to happen to me.
I mean, we are the casuals here. Those guys, they're the pro. They're, the min-maxers, the pros. Balor especially, like...
Yeah, Balor, I'm not. I'm like, actually, this league, I'm filling the spot of the casual gamer on these podcasts. I've played like maybe 50 hours combined since league start. Maybe 60. And all I've done is die. I've not accomplished anything.
So, Balor, what are you playing?
Just Corrupting Fever. It was my third reroll, and I decided I was determined to find a juiced way to earn a headhunter because I could make way more money just Alkin going. But I was like, no, I want a juice. I want to put mobs in my map, and I'm going to keep doing it until I make a headhunter, and it's taken so long. I'd have been done like 4 days ago if I just did Alkin go. But we're nearly there.
Oh.
We're nearly there, and I'm determined. I'm finishing the headhunter in juiced content.
Well, you're proving your point at least. You're standing by what you set out to do. Good job.
And losing money hand over fist, but it's fine. I'm doing it anyway.
You're having fun, right?
Whenever I hear that hand over fist thing, I just think, like, is that what I'm doing?
I don't know how that saying came about, to be honest. Like, what does that even mean?
Well, I mean, I guess if the hand is over the fist, that means everything falls out on the bottom. Like, if the hand was under the fist, then you wouldn't be losing as much. I don't know.
No, that's probably it. That actually makes sense.
Like, imagine a handful of sand or something like that, right? Or full of money, and then,
Yeah, we're going with that for sure.
It is so sad that, like, not to, like, segue into a particular part of the topic list, but, like, if all of the game is built around acquiring, like items that are specifically responsible for introducing more content to the game, but then when you do that, it's not rewarding, it's very confusing experience, and I don't understand that choice.
Is that where we are right now? Does it generally feel like the things that you can do onto your maps are generally worth not doing or not worth doing?
If all of the juice in the game was free and I didn't have to trade for it at all, and it was in my stash already, I would still lose money using it compared to doing a good Alkin Go strat.
Because it makes your maps take longer?
Uh-huh.
Because it's
I can
not
pump
gonna
out more maps Alkin Go, and I will make more money Alkin Go even if all the juice was free.
I mean, does it really
basing
take
this
that
on
much
other
longer?
people's.
If they're just adding monsters, sorry.
No.
Depends.
What were you saying?
Yeah, Mairian, please repeat repeat the point.
No, I'm just saying, like, does it really, like, let's say you have, like, an insane character, right, that's, like, super good at clearing maps, and you're adding extra mobs to it. I mean, does it really add that much more time?
So it depends on the juice. I've said a blanket statement that doesn't actually apply to every single thing. It's in general well not worth it, right? Like, it's not worth adding a breach to your map at all. In fact,
Wow.
it's like if you put breach scarabs in, you lose money because they take too long, right? But like, if a delirium orb was free and adding 1 didn't change your speed, it would probably be worth doing. But if it brings your map from 3 minutes to 3 minutes and 20 seconds, you lose money. Because just running a new map would have been better. And you will not get 20 seconds worth of rewards out of a delirium orb. Unless it's a scarab one.
But that's only 1 extra map per 9 maps, right? If you go from 3 minutes and 20 seconds down to 3 minutes, it's only like 1 extra map every 9 maps.
Uh-huh.
So you're not.
And over the course of the day, you will lose money running that 1 delirium orb. Like, when I say lose money, I mean, you're still going to make money. Like, I'm putting hella juice into my maps, right? And I'm saving up for Headhunter. I've got like 125 divines right now. Like, I'm still making money. When I say lose money, I mean, compared to if you weren't, you'd be making more. Not that it's not profitable. It's just less profitable than doing nothing. If you just do nothing, you make the most amount of money. And everything extra you do, it's just a little bit worse. There are some exceptions. Like if you're farming expedition and you use expedition scarabs, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we want
like
those.
expedition,
those are great.
Legion, Blight, and Heist, right? Are worth it with investment.
Yeah, because their rewards don't come from killing monsters.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so there are some exceptions, and so there are things you can still use. But
where we build characters to kill monsters, the rewarding content is the one with boxes.
Mhm.
Okay. I see what you did there.
In Blight,
Not sure
Blight is
why.
pretty slow. Blight's pretty slow, though. If you,
Yeah, but the investment on the tree.
you have to stay there and kill those monsters before you get the boxes.
yeah,
So
you
Blight is like
spec
definitely
into the
adds
double
some.
speed one, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how it is from a softcore trade point of view. I'm doing HCSSF this league again, and for me personally, I just feel like Blights add a lot of extra loot to my maps, and adding Blights to my maps is the only way to reliably generate Blighted maps, and Blighted maps are basically like a huge loot pinata, right? Like if you can do a Blighted map, you're just in for a treat. There's so much loot on the ground in a Blighted map. There's always at least like 1 inventory worth of stuff carrying out.
Yeah,
the
with
same-
enough investment in the Atlas tree, you can make sure that you're reliably generating those maps, right?
And that's the same in trade. If you don't want to run blighted maps, you just spec into blights anyway, and you can go farm blighted maps all day and sell them to the blight runners, right? Like you can just do that. And that's fine. And that's worth putting blighted scarabs in, right? And having your whole atlas set up to farm blights and running the right maps so that it's all nice, tight, always. Like you can still do that. So there's still like some amount of juice that's like worth putting in certain spots. The biggest issue, it took me ages to figure out why it was so bad. The biggest issue is that every single layer of additional juice you put on a map makes the map more difficult, right? It takes more time, not increased time, and you need more of a better character, not increased of a better character. But all rewards now scale completely linearly. So if I put 1 extra breach in and a breach is worth 2C, it doesn't matter if it's the first breach or the 10th breach that I put in a map, it's just worth 2C. Right? The extra doesn't matter going further, doesn't make my earlier investment worth anymore. So my maps get more difficult and more slower, but only get increased rewards. So it very, very quickly becomes like, here's the base map. We put a tiny bit of juice in, we get a tiny bit of reward. We put more juice in, we get less reward. We put more juice in, we get a little bit again. We get more juice in, we get a little bit again. And it just goes off into the ceiling and just isn't worth doing super quickly.
So if you wanted to do it on like a line graph, you've got like how much you're scaling it by, but the rewards are sort of
It's just a straight line for the reward.
Yeah.
Straight line.
See, that's
with a
where
little
I
bit
get
of like
really
an incline.
confused about the manifesto or the post, which has the philosophy, which is like we want difficulty to scale rewards, but like it's fixed because it's based on the modifier, not the like environment that the context the modifier is existing in, basically.
Yeah, that's easily my biggest gripe right now with the state of the game and the state of the communication and like whatever, like what information we've been left with, because I still don't understand whether in GGG's point of view, the game is actually now fixed, right? Is it worth to invest into your content to make it more challenging and more rewarding in their eyes, or is it not? Because I think from the community side, we can all agree that for the most part, it's not worth it. At least not for the extra monsters that you put on. It's worth it for the extra, chest rewards that you put on. But the extra challenge is not directly rewarded anymore. And I don't know, like it could still be a good game even without that being the case. I just don't know what the future direction is. I don't know where the next step takes us that they're going to do, because they've been super unclear with telling us what they want.
Alcan Go is the future. I'm an Alcan Go gamer. I don't... All this fancy stuff,
that's
juicing.
Fantastic now.
Alcan Go gamer all the way. Even take that Atlas Notable, get your free stuff. So good.
I can only imagine if you're normally an Alcan Go gamer, you're probably having a fantastic time this league.
I mean, I think that's partly why I'm still playing. I am an Alcan Go player, but like I recognize the fact that when I'm playing this game, like even I have strong boxes, and then there's the strong box that specifically drops scarabs, and I get the strong box every now and then, and I go, this is really but I'm Alcan Go. Like,
yep.
What do I do with
now
these
I have scarabs? Yay! They go in my scarab tab.
I mean, once, like, even if you Alcan Go and Stream of Consciousness, like, eventually you'll have, like, a number of desirable scarabs of one, like, sort of league that you like to do, and then it's worth to, even if you're not...
But is it?
No.
See, that's my point. That's what I want to know. I want to know is there a point where I'm going to have enough scarabs? I'm going to go, hey, I want to run scarabs instead. I'm going to take Stream of Consciousness off. I'm going to run these scarabs. And then I look at Baylor and he goes, don't do it.
Well, so things are a little different in solo
for Expedition, for example, right? Like
if you explicitly need to get golden oils, maybe taking Stream of Consciousness off and running your blight scarabs that you've piled up on your maps and collecting some black maps and running them is worth your time, because you're in solo self-found and you're not getting a golden oil from anywhere else.
League specific items. Yeah. That's not targeting
so I don't know. It's the same thing for even for breaches, for instance, which are just not worth putting on right now. But if you want to do the breach invitation in solo self-found, you don't have a choice. You have to hunt breaches, you have to collect all the stones. So for you, it might actually still be worth taking off Stream of Consciousness and using them to collect the splinters, because you're going to have to, otherwise you can't do the thing, right? So it's still worth it in solo self-found for the sake of there is no other way. If you want to collect that stuff, that's the only way you can target it.
Solo self-found is a different kind of beast. Can't really compare it to the trade, what's good for trade, because of just the sheer amount of resources you have access to. In solo self-found, you have to take advantage of all the things depending on your goals, what you get.
No. I'm aware, but I guess my point is that the game is balanced around that trade element anyway. Like, it's not really balanced around the solo self-found experience. So,
is it though? Like, now I feel like they want to balance it around, because juicing not really a thing now. Because rewards don't scale. So what they want basically is like a solo self-found experience. Because if you do a little bit, it is worth it, right? Because you put a little bit in first.
A little bit is fine.
Exactly. First iteration of more and increase is basically the same. So if you put a little bit on, it's actually definitely worth it. Solo self-found, definitely worth it. Even in trade, if you're depends on what kind of player you are. But then, as soon as you start stacking a lot of stuff, that's what they nerfed. I don't know. I honestly don't know why, because who cares in trade? And in solo self-found, people will probably not gonna super juice, or if they will, it's gonna be just a short burst, right? You just save up a bunch of stuff. So I don't know what exactly was the reasoning. Maybe they just wanted things to be more rare, like uniques, more rare, more expensive. They changed the chase currency from Exalt to Divine, because we had actually so much access to exalts. Like, you had exalt shard recipe, you had so many divination cards for exalts, magic finding was a thing, and now it's just like divines, one divination card, no shards, no other way. I mean, you can vendor a mirror, but I don't think people are gonna do that. So It's just
So
like
I'm
they want the
curious.
things to be more expensive and more rare, like valuable things. It's like they went back on. Sorry.
Do you guys reckon there will be divine cards in the next? Like that's just going to be the
For
thing
sure.
now.
I have a
100%.
follow-up question on that. Actually, how GGG lets all divination cards are player made, right? Like at some point, someone purchased the big pack or the divination card extension beyond the highest pack, and every divination card in the game has been made by a player. And in the past, when a certain divination card became irrelevant or the reward wasn't available anymore as a drop in the game, and you shouldn't be able to obtain it in any way, they approached the creator of the divination card to be able to make a new card. Now, after the Divine and Exalt switch, do you think the people who made the Exalt divination cards should get to make a new card? Because it's such a significant change.
Well,
No,
didn't that one guy try to make a new card? He offered to pay for a new card, and all he wanted was for it to change from it to being an exalted card to a divine card, and they said no.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think they will, because I mean the currency still exists in the game, and this is the whole reason, is because the access to exalts was so common that they were like, okay, nothing is worth anything anymore. I guess. Well, there were still things that were worth, like chase items, but I mean, I don't know why. That's just what I think. What went through their heads, because otherwise, why would they change it? Yeah.
Unless they stop making people letting people make cards. There's what are you like? Situation is going to happen again.
So they don't have to let people make any card they like.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
like
they have veto rights
to make anything.
The input of the designer, like you can't just say boom, stats, go.
So they could say no, but
yeah, they can say no. They can definitely say no to you. Say I want to make a divine card. They will be you have to choose something else, because maybe they want divines to be rare now, and that's it. They don't want any, like they want as few opportunities to get divines as possible. So actually, yeah, it's valuable.
Though, like divine or like any divination cards that are not from like boss specific drops are pretty much non-farmable anyway, because of the implications of the juice change, right? Like adding a ton more white monsters to your map is not going to increase your divination card drops in a meaningful way anymore.
People are saying, well, I mean, I don't know, you can correct me, but rarity does affect the currency rarity now, doesn't it? Or not?
Yes and no. Sort of.
So
stacking rarity will make you a lot more currency, but not because it affects currency.
Oh. But like, okay, so it is related to Arch Nemesis mobs, right? So there is an Arch Nemesis mob that drops divination cards. So stacking rarity and killing these divination cards mobs would get you just more divination cards, but not better divination cards.
Better ones as well.
Wait, increased rarity makes divination cards drop of a higher rarity tier?
From Arch Nemesis explicitly, yes.
All right, from the conversion.
I guess that's the way to do it.
So the way that the currency and the cards drop is that they drop a bunch of items. And based on the rarity of those items, not just whether they're rare or unique, but also the rarity of that unique, is how they convert from the Arch Nemesis mob, which is why I'm running Reliquary Scarabs, not because I plan on dropping any uniques, but because if you run a Reliquary Scarab and you drop 100% more uniques, you get 100% more currency when you hit the currency loot goblin, because it drops twice as many uniques that'll then get converted into currency. And so it's the same deal for the Arch Nemesis mob that drops cards as it drops gear. We want to up the rarity of that so that they're uniques, and then drop more uniques so that they drop even more cards when they convert over.
Well,
that's so crazy.
I guess that's the way to do it.
This is a bizarre way to do the game. It's bizarre. Mm-hmm. I'm calling it. That's weird.
The polished Reliquary Scarab is literally double currency, by the way. If you run that on your map, when it's double currency when you hit an Arch Nemesis. Straight up 100% more.
So wait, then that guy, Reliquary Scarab, now is like super worth.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
I guess more you know.
Doesn't add any mobs.
I saved them in my stash anyway, so that's fun.
It doesn't add any mobs
Yeah,
to
I
your
mean,
map, but
I'm
it's the
still
most
out and going
valuable.
with stream of consciousness, but I'm just gonna like keep an eye out.
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess rarity on your gear is not a dead stat anymore. It's actually
No,
worth.
it's nearly the best stat. That when you talk about pure profit, rarity is the best stat that you can have.
Yeah, you should have been here for the last episode. Balor basically told us all we're playing the game wrong if we're not using a corundum flask. Or not corundum, gold flask.
Gold flask.
Gold flask. I've already had the lecture like 3 times.
Well,
If
yeah.
I drop one, I'll let you know.
In my opinion, anyone in a trade league at the very least that isn't running a gold flask is trolling.
And increased item rarity support.
Well, some builds you can't afford that, and some builds it won't work for. Like if you kill most stuff with occultist pops, having rarity in your main link doesn't really matter.
True.
You're going to hit a whole pack. It's going to kill the arch nemesis with the explosions, and the explosions are what get the kill. And it won't matter. Like bleed explode for the gladiator, things like that. But if you can afford item rarity support, it's great. But everyone can afford the gold flask. So gold flasks on.
Trolling. I don't care that much about loot, I guess. I didn't even care before. Like this whole thing where people are like, oh, well, FOMO this, FOMO that, because you have to get the color to get most of it. It's like,
yeah, I'm
whatever. Dude, like,
I'm not doing that.
It's like,
0%
is
chance.
it really worth your stress levels? It's like, oh my god, and then they're gonna yoink the divines, and I'm gonna be left with nothing, and then they go and complain. It's like, dude, what do you expect? Somebody
Can they?
sees 10 divines and they're not gonna take it. Like, so you're putting a lot of trust to some other person, some random you found on TFT or I don't know, on whatever that trade channel is on global. Like, dude.
Wait, can they actually? Isn't it allocated to the map owner automatically, or is it like allocated to the color? I'm just asking because
I think there's too much room for human error in this and malicious intent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, maybe, you're going to be happy about those 10 divines, right? I'm not saying there's 10 divines dropping, right? But I'm just saying, like, a big cash injection is going to make you happy for a little bit. But honestly, like, is it really? Nah. Just too much effort, honestly. Just play the game. 10 of those things and divine each time, boom, you have it. Instead of, like, stressing out about this, oh, yeah, I have to go look about this, oh, don't kill that mob, and then call somebody over. It's like, come on. Too much effort.
I'm not doing it based purely on principle because I think the entire idea is complete garbage. But
low effort gaming,
if you're a casual person, you make 1 or 2 divines a day. If you give up getting a color, you're giving up 5 days worth of progress. You should go and get a color. I have to advise people to do it, and also I have to advise people that if you're okay with losing it, you should just not, because it's trash gameplay and it's not fun. Just don't do it. But financially, you have to.
I mean, if you care that much about finances, I mean, I guess you're willing to gamble, right? Because what's the payoff, right? If you get scammed 1 out of 5 times, and the other times you get the loot yourself, totally worth it, right?
If you get scammed 1 out of every 5 times, you still make
exactly
2.5 times the amount of profit as if you didn't.
Exactly, you make a lot of profit.
You won't ever get scammed on TFT, so it doesn't matter. There's no risk.
Yeah,
you never get scammed on TFT.
I don't think it's very likely that you get scammed on TFT.
That you could possibly exist.
I guess, the reputation, if you go for somebody who's reputable, it's very unlikely that they'll scam you. So
I thought there was going to be so much sarcasm just then. Like, I thought he was just like...
I was like, wait, was that for real?
I can't say 0 because scams have happened. But if someone scams on TFT once, they get banned permanently.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen very often. And every scam that's happened so far that I've ever seen is for things in the 100 or more divine range. Like if someone's going to scam you on there, they're going to do it for an item that's worth giving up everything they've worked for the entire server. And your 10 divines on the ground is not even remotely close to that.
Oh, like, yeah. I mean, it totally makes sense for it to just not really be anyone's. Like, if you're an MF color, like, your gear is already immediately worth more weight than that, right?
Yeah, and you scam
Exactly.
once, and what are you doing? You're going into like 35 maps an hour to cull stuff
No,
off
you
the
kind
server?
of screw yourself, right? Because
Like you're
you're
going
an
to give
MF
up all
color
that extra
now.
currency to take half of one guy's? No way.
What are you going to do with all your gear?
Yeah.
Sell it?
You can't be a color anymore. You don't have access to the server. You're done. Like, it's not going to happen.
Well, anyways, I personally wouldn't recommend people. As in, like, I would say I don't do it. I don't see a reason why people really need to do it but I mean, people do you, right? You do you, boo.
I do agree with
But
you,
I
like
would-
to some degree, where like it's not worth giving up your enjoyment of the game for a marginal gain. Like if that makes you hate yourself, you shouldn't change the way that you play the game for basically 20% more currency on average. But if it fits into your playstyle, like a lot of people are enjoying this sort of interaction about Path of Exile, like being able to call in guildmates or people from your friend list when you made like a metamorph that kills you all the time that you can't get down, some arch nemesis monster with too much regen or something like that. And if that's the sort of playstyle that you lean into and you have like an active community of players, maybe even like a guildmate who has an MF color, I don't see anything wrong with like leaning into that style of play. I personally wouldn't do it if I didn't have someone on my friend list or in the chat offering the service when I find a monster, right? Like if I were to play Softcore Trade and I find one of those loot goblin monsters and then someone in chat is, hey, should I quickly log into my other character? I'd totally do it. But other than that, I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't enjoy the gameplay of having to go onto TFT and looking for the right guy and then like vouching. I mean, you don't have to vouch, but it's kind of a dick move if you don't vouch and all that like associated. I really don't like playing the game outside of the client for the most part. That's also my problem that I have with trade. But, and here's the big but, for me in SSF, like leveling a second character into maps just to have like an MF color with like some stacked rarity and maybe an item rarity support and a gold flask and stuff like that sounds actually like a cool thing to have, like a cool special character to make. Like you already
It's
have
sort
like
of like having,
Yeah.
like Mara's talking about having like her clear character and her bossing character.
Exactly.
Your MF color character is another niche, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like it doesn't appeal to me from a technical point of view. Like I just don't. I don't like it from a game. It prevents gameplay in some ways. Like that guy there has to do a thing that like automatically stops them. Like sorry, let me try to explain this again. So the color is the one who like causes it to die, and then if there is a culling party to increase quant, then everyone else has that one. Unique that stops you from being able to kill stuff so that you don't accidentally be the one that kills it. And that like technical thing, I guess it makes sense in one way, but it doesn't, it seems disingenuous to the game to me.
I guess it's sort of the same thing as Old Harvest, where it just promotes a playstyle that overall doesn't make the game a better game.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like an exploit because I don't think that like that item wasn't introduced specifically to help you guys deal with getting better loot from arch nemesis mods. It just happened to be in the game in a time where like this application could come about.
Which item specifically? You mean like any rarity item or?
The one that stops you from being able to kill stuff and then magic.
You mean
Southbound.
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 Yep.
I'm not good with names. What's your name?
Southbound was originally designed to do exactly what it's doing right now. That was originally in its intent. To
Like
stop
in
a
MF
player from
culling
being
parties.
able to kill
Yeah.
4 parties. That was its design from the ground up.
Ah, my bad then.
Also for getting kill credit on like trapper builds. If you kill by proxy with a hit, then you don't get the kill credit. But if the trap applies a poison and the monster dies to the poison, it actually is a monster kill that's credited to you as the player. So that's what they also were used for. I remember like first seeing a large spike in use of the Southbound gloves when Pox popularized his physical poison trapper. Was a Bladefall poison trapper, which used bear trap for single target. And then that build, it was sort of crucial that you had these Southbound gloves because otherwise your traps would always kill with the hit and you'd never get kill credit for the dot kills.
And so you'd never get charges. I think it was charges related back then.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I was about to ask what the kill credit was going to give you, and now I know.
Well, onslaught, you get onslaught, charges,
Rampage.
all
if
the things you get on
somewhere.
kill. Yeah.
You guys are talking about a time when I either wasn't playing the game or I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I was playing the game.
It's still a thing, right? If you play some kind of like fire trap, I think it still works the same.
Yep.
No? Or even ignite totems with ignite, maybe? Ignite
It still does the same thing. As
It's
long as
still
you kill with the
every
damage over
dot-
time, you get kill credit.
Yeah, every dot you apply with different means, if the monster dies by the dot, gives credit to you. So you can still get charges on all the on-kill stuff, or like on-kill stuff maybe doesn't work on on-hit stuff for like bosses and stuff, but on-kill stuff, yeah, you can get it. But anyways, this loot goblin thing is fun for a lot of people, so I guess.
Is it fun for you?
It's a new. I mean, I don't care. I never pay attention to the mods, to these arch nemesis monsters. I just kill them. And then
Right.
if I drop a divine, I'm like, oh, I guess it was this thing. Because I dropped a divine. I dropped a bunch of currency. I'm like, yay, divine. But other than that, I don't pay attention to any mods. I just go blast to the maps, and if I get something cool, I get something cool. If I don't, I mean, I sell the flasks nowadays, because I get so many. I don't pick up armor scraps because I get so many. I leave them on the ground. But
Yeah.
like flasks, some flask mods do sell quite well. You get like armor flask with increased armor and 3 charges gain on hit. Boom, cha-ching.
Yeah,
Chaos
that's
or
my
something.
fear. If I was in softcore trade, I think I would feel bad because I would definitely not notice if the thing that I was trying to kill was the one that I needed to be like, stop,
Yeah.
whoa, hey, I gotta drop
Exactly.
a bottle and go to TFT and
I feel like
do
you
that whole thing because
actively.
I wouldn't notice.
Yeah,
I'd
you
just be like-
actively have to go.
I think over time I might notice that some of the effects it's attacking me with, that's a repeating pattern. But 'cause the only thing I really notice is like, this is hard to kill. What's it doing to me? Because now I have to pay attention. And so now I know which mods are the ones that I really don't like. And then the rest of them are just like dying too quickly. I don't notice.
Yeah, that links back to like one of the big complaints that I had with the Arch Nemesis reward system when we first started talking about it on the podcast, and that's just outside of the MF loot goblin sort of getting a color thing into your maps. It's pretty much inconsequential because you're not gonna like kill a monster that previously you would have skipped or skip a monster that previously you would have killed. You still like just run around and kill everything that you can kill. Like,
Well, I mean, at the risk of a rant that I've done too many times already,
Rant.
the Arch Nemesis thing was a recipe system that people were supposed to be actively shaping.
exactly.
So if it's happening because like y'all chucked it into a mixer and then like pulled out random ones, like not a mixer, a hat. Let's say that all of the Arch Nemesis mods went into a hat and then we just pull them out at random and then assign them to monsters per map. And there's no like limit to these combinations. I mean, there's no meaningful interaction in that. And the whole idea with these rares is that they're like supposed to, like matter a bit more when you're fighting them. But if GGG didn't spend any time trying to make them seem interesting and like matter because they didn't like spend time putting those mods together, I don't really see why I should. Because like neither of us are spending any time actively crafting this experience. It's just done by a random generator. And in addition to that, I'll go back to my earlier rant that Balor and I have been back and forwards on for a while now. The Arch Nemesis mods themselves aren't mods. They're collections of mods. They're not one mod. They're a nickname that is an umbrella term for a bunch of mods. Like gargantuan doesn't mean is really big. It means is really big, hits really hard. And then I don't know what the rest of them are because trust me, I don't know. I'm not going to stop and look it up because I got to kill it or it's going to kill me. And And that's my issue. Like Arch Nemesis didn't really like make things simpler because they kind of like hid all of the mods behind a nickname for the mods and then went, oh, if you really want to know what they are, you got to look it up. And then now we've got this extra step where if you really want to know if this is going to be a rewarding Arch Nemesis mod to kill, you need to look up the other thing that says what the combinations look like. Yeah.
Yeah, you're bringing up like two really, really important points here. And one is the fact that, without any sort of agency in the general system, sure, we do have Metamorph that when we talked about this specific topic that came up in the past, right? You got Metamorph, which interacts with the system, so you got...
But they never got rid of the crafting bit.
What do you mean,
Metamorph?
The crafting bit?
Yeah, when they added Metamorph in, we still build the Metamorph at the end of the league.
There's the random optional Metamorph that you can encounter, but that's like a little bit of fun. That's like saying, hey, I want to deal with 20 ghosts. Like,
yeah, exactly. But that is the one way where we have agency to compose our Arch Nemesis experience. That's what I'm saying. Where the mods matter because you actually have a choice. And other than that, you're just presented with a random selection of mods on a platter. And usually it's not bad enough to make you not kill a monster. And then if you don't kill a monster, you're not going to skip anything. Yeah, you certainly also didn't skip anything beforehand, so it doesn't change the experience of how you interact. It just changes the loot that you receive in the end. But it maybe a little bit, makes you, when you see a monster early, makes you a little bit excited. So yeah, the lack of agency in the system, I really 100% agree with that. If there's more ways like Metamorph where we get to actually actively engage with the mod system, that'd be great.
But
and the other... Yeah.
Sorry to build off that, but please do remember your other point. Could you imagine a map where every single mod is that fucking statue that I cosplayed as, and you've got to craft every single mod in a map because that's how they've deemed this system to work.
Wait, which statue did you cosplay as? The one with the
goat
noodle
thing.
Oh. Wait.
Like he had all the
not
horns.
Arceus.
That was the Arch Nemesis statue. Anyway, not the point.
The effigy. Oh, no, the
guy
Arch
who
Nemesis
was the Arch Nemesis statue.
Yeah.
So like the reason Arch Nemesis worked was because there were only like 5 in a map or whatever, and then the rest of the rares were just regular ass rares. Like, okay, the equivalent is the equivalent of that. Just they have one Arch Nemesis modifier, and then every like 5 or so rares are a statue, and you make one. That I could sort of get behind, because you get to pick which mods it has. Theoretically, I don't know. Anyway, you had another point.
Well, I was basically just summarizing your point. So the lack of agency, something that we can definitely keep in mind here, and you kind of support it with what you just said. I don't think that the solution to the system would be to bring the League style Arch Nemesis system back, where you actually have to interact with the statues in every map.
No, so then the option is just to cull the list, because like why are there 80 of them? Like if you want this to be quick and recognizable, then like make it have identity and oomph. Shape it actively.
If anyone happened to have read that 70-page essay document on Reddit,
he condensed it down
it was
to
a
6,
fantastic read.
I had a glance
very
at
long,
it.
but it was fantastic. But one of the things that was mentioned in there was the fact that so many of the Arch Nemesis mods are redundant, and then he listed out like 6 different Arch Nemesis mobs that all just like thematically just meant cold stuff. There was 6 different this mob does cold stuff mobs. And he was like, that's ridiculous. Like, why? Why is there not one cold stuff mob, one all element stuff mob, one fire stuff mob? Like, you look at that over every element, it looks like you could cut out more than half, probably closer to 2/3.
Take that and apply it to the visual clarity issue, which is what Arch Nemesis was purported to solve, right? If you apply that to that, there would be a much more simpler, like use of symbols and animations and stuff, because you would only need to have the certain set, and people would see that and they'd be like, I know that's this type of damage, I know what I gotta deal with here. But because there's like 6 different variations of it, you gotta, and then you can't see it properly because they're doing a bunch of different shit.
And on top of that, if they did, okay, so there's 6 cold guys, right? And each of them does one thing, right? They let's say they have that one skill, like they have, I don't know what they do really, but can't remember because we just killed them anyways. But anyways, if they were to combine them, you could actually make an interesting rare, because they could be like, they could go through these skills, right? Okay, so now he does this thing, then he switches it up, does the other thing, right? And instead of having like 6 different ones that does one thing each, they could have one thing that does all those things, not at the same time, because, you know, sometimes that becomes a problem. You stack some cost speed on mobs and they're like, bzz, 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 zap you to whatever. But you know what I mean? That could be in GG's side making an interesting monster.
I agree with that. I like the idea of them cycling through their abilities instead of being able to do all of them all at once.
Yeah.
Particularly when you have many of those abilities stacking. And that's probably one of the reasons why those metamorph builds work, because you know at each phase what you're dealing with. I mean, if you're paying attention.
Yeah, you opt in, you get to select beforehand and you know what you're getting yourself in, as opposed to, you know, running into a room and there's like 3 rare monsters and one of them has a difficult mod combination, but you have to hover them all in order to be able to read the mods. Then you don't know what half the mods do, because in the, you know, haste of the moment, you can't bring up the arch nemesis list on the side on the screen to look up every single mod. And it just becomes like super hard to tell beforehand what kind of risk and reward situation you're getting yourself into.
I mean, I think that the fact of the matter is that Arch Nemesis required an artist, like a team of artists, to create like 80 different types of animations, and that there is no way in hell that they're going to put that shit on the back burner and be like, hey, we're not going to use that. We only used it for a league.
But they can definitely consolidate things, like for sure. You can put the same, because right now how Arch Nemesis works, right? You get like actual 4 or 3 mods or however mods that actually do things. They will be doing those things maybe at the same time, right? Stagger them and consolidate. Stagger and consolidate instead of like everything happening at the same time, or maybe make them interact somehow. Also, you know, between different mods. Like if you have fire and I don't know, coal together, you steam. Something new. Why not?
Some meta Arch Nemesis mods, like an Arch Nemesis mod that decides how the other Arch Nemesis mods on the monsters interact.
Well, let's not add more Arch Nemesis mods. We already have way too many. So, but they can definitely consolidate and make it at least somehow, like you have to learn, as I said, learn fewer things, but then at least you can learn them, because I mean. But at the same time, I mean, this is just GGG's way, right? Add things that are convoluted and obscure, so you have to go to third-party websites to read them. That's basically GGG's way. So it doesn't really surprise me. I don't even know if that, like, we have that in-game help menu. Does it explain what those mods do?
Not on the help menu.
The in-game help menu hasn't been updated in like years.
Well, they should really
I discovered today that you can't even, like, there's a page in the help menu called the glossary page, but you can't search for it. You just have to scroll.
I haven't opened that at all since the league came out.
No, but somebody was talking about the glossary in my stream, and I was like, I'm going to have a look at this. And then I was like, I can't find anything that I'm actually looking for here. It's like a picture, I think.
I open the help glossary thing or the help index thing once on every character to switch off the pop-ups. That's about it.
That was my once. I didn't open it before that. It was because the thing is, I'm immune to that little glowing thing, and other people, they get very upset when they see it, and I'm like, "You'll be okay." I mean, this is like the one time in this hour that you're actually looking at the screen. The rest of the time, you're watching your own screen. You're just listening.
Yeah. I mean,
I forget, man.
I'd be fine. Like, I wouldn't get annoyed by proxy if I'm watching someone who has it switched off. But for myself, I'd be pretty annoyed.
I figured out
What?
how GGG could make me check the help menu more. If they made it
By
look like
updating it.
I had emails like on my phone, like like the little thing, the number in the little red circle. If they
Yeah.
did that, I would open it every
Yeah.
time just to clear it. Oh, it's
Getting
annoying.
triggered by the UI. I mean, that's basically how it is for me, right? That's how it appears in my head when I see it blink down there. I don't know how many notifications it has, but it doesn't matter. I need to click it to get rid of the glowy thing.
I never click it. It's still blinking away merrily. Nobody cares.
I had to look at the glossary. I would have
It's
just left
blinking
it.
away.
But how good would it be if you actually could search in there for what the different arch nemesis mods do? Maybe don't even spoil them, right? Like maybe have it like so that it doesn't show the ones that you haven't encountered yet, like a Pokedex basically. So whenever you encounter a new arch nemesis mod, it gets a new entry
Like
and you get to open it.
Bestiary's book of recipes or
Yeah.
some shit.
I mean, that would be good. I think that would be useful. That's actually useful information that you can add to in that glossary or whatever help menu thing.
I was thinking like the normal way to deal with trying to give you guys information in this game is with tooltip or like with hover, right? But you can't when you're in combat. The best you get is when you're hovering, you get the name lock and then the list. You can't then move your mouse to the list to find out what does that mean.
I mean, honestly, this kind of thing could be applied to so many things in game. Like, for example, first time you fight Cyrus and you die miserably, you could get an entry in your Pokedex thingy telling you, oh, Cyrus does these things. And maybe that will help you next time you go. Or like somebody
who moves, damage
just
types that
explain-
it does.
Yeah, that's really useful information that helps you maybe build, like, for example, getting corrupting blood immunity or ailment immunity even really helps that fight. Spell suppression, knowing that he does spell damage. He doesn't do like any melee hits. Boom. Helps immensely. Like, this kind of, I don't know, I just don't get it why they don't put this information in game. It would be so easy to put it in game.
Baylor has an answer for this question.
Does he?
Do I?
Because we've had this discussion and you said, I liked not knowing things and figuring it out by slamming my head against a brick wall.
Yeah, I don't think that applies to these things though.
I don't think it applies to
In
the game
relation
nowadays.
to these things, I'm sorry, I probably peeked
I'm
them
sorry
away.
as well. I'm just quickly
Like-
going to interrupt you. I think not knowing things was fine and fun in the game in 2013 when the game had like
Yes.
10% of the content that we have now. But
Yeah.
I think now it's like artificially obstructing the path to learning, to getting good at the
Yeah,
game.
it's the complexity breaks down the ability to understand things because there's way too many possibilities for you confusing it for something else.
And like the things that I still don't want information on is things like the best way to get the most amount of rewards out of this league mechanic. Like I don't want that to be super obvious.
No, not
day
that
you
kind
start.
of.
I want that to be worked out. I want to
Yeah.
bang my head
no.
against the wall trying to figure out why it's trash until Grimroad puts out a video on day 3 and I go, that's how it works.
So yeah,
That's
I've
cool.
never advocated for the game to tell you what a good strategy was. I just advocate for the game to sort of tell you what it's doing right now at you.
And I don't love the idea of knowing stuff beforehand. Like if there was I love the idea of that Pokedex thing, but I would want that to unlock as I do it. It couldn't be
no one wants
something that
to
I could
have
look up
spoilers,
beforehand.
man. No
Yeah.
one wants spoilers. Fuck that.
Like
No,
brand
but,
new
I
players
mean-
should have to fight Kataba first,
Exactly.
and then get a list of this is the stuff Kataba does.
No, exactly. And then, I mean, if you struggled or whatever, for the next time around, you'll be already smarter. Not only because you've already done it, but because, okay, I can get more information out of it and see if I can do. I mean, I wouldn't say that this kind of information in the game should be available before you do it. I think it's really just like whenever we have a new boss introduced, I definitely will not go and look at any streams or anybody to see how it works.
Yeah. No, I
And
avoid
if I
it.
figure it out, I figure it out. And if I don't, and if I really don't want to try again, because I struggle so much, I will look it up myself. But before that, no. Like
Yeah.
Maiden's
No, I
memory
think
game
I
when it was
100%
introduced.
agree. If you're gonna have information about the game, it has to be unlocked as you encounter it. Possibly even on failing it, or possibly only after succeeding. I don't know. That's something you would have to test and see how it went. How funny the user experience designer like advocates for user testing to check that the design works. How unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times the user experience is quite a bit different from what the designer intended, because the users like just use things on their own terms, right? They don't know how the designer intended things to be used.
I think that's why, I mean, like, at least with my work outside of PoE, obviously, my goal is like work with all the different parts of the company that work on those things. So I need to understand exactly what the designers want to achieve, and then I need to understand what the engineers need to do that, to make that happen, and what those like sets of limitations provide, and then take that into a situation where I say, okay, well, if I'm actually experiencing this firsthand as a player, like, how does that feel, and how do I figure out my way through that? And then, you know, you got to do a lot of research, of course. But I don't know how often that happens. Like, I would just love to be a fly on the wall in GGG and be like, do they have flowcharts? Do they expect this process to happen, like going from A to B? Like, are these the stages they expect a player to go through in order to do that?
I think they
Do
probably
they understand
have that.
at each of those stages there's a lot of clicking involved? For example, expedition. I was so close to doing a study of all the clicking, because I read that the what we're working on post, and it was like, this is intended, and I was like, nah, son. Like, you got so many menus happening, and then you've got all the different like times you got to play, like all the different points that involve an action that involves a mouse interaction. That needed to be measured and tested, and then assessed, like just considered. And I think it happens again and again in PoE.
Yeah,
I mean, the most curious case is when they, when they changed Harvest this league, right? And they said, oh, sometimes we don't drop, plots might not drop you the crystallized essence or whatever it's called, right? Because we're consolidating it. And I'm like, okay, then, but if you're consolidating it, then why, when I kill a full plot that does drop essence, I still get like 5 stacks? Or let's say, even better example is the Harvest Memory, where you get like a huge plot that drops a lot of this crystallized essence, and it drops like 20 stacks. I'm like, why don't you just make it one big stack so I have to click once? I mean, you went back and saying, yeah, well, we're consolidating, so you have to click less, but then you're not? Like 20 times you have to click on that. And don't get me wrong, I love getting all that juice, but like, you could have just made it one big stack to drop what the last mob you kill from the plot, and that's it. Boom. All of that, like one big stack. Yummy, yummy, yummy.
I gotta say, I see this complaint have come up a lot from, like, this is not just even limited to games, not just GGG, but like we don't have the time or the money or the budget to spend on UX. Trust me, if you spend money on UX upfront, it makes you money in the long run.
The sentence of that feels like we don't have the time or money to work on MTXs. Buddy, this is how you get money. Like, what do you mean?
Yes.
It's like, you don't have the time or money to not be working on UX, please.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking to, but it might have been when we had one of those calls. But like, this game is not a one-way story that's being articulated at us by GGG, because we actively participated in it. It's not an artwork on a wall where we have to interpret it. Like, we have to log in, we have to create a character, we have to start playing the game. If we don't play, all that stuff that came after it doesn't exist. So in order for this thing to exist, it relies on the interaction, and you need to talk to the people who are doing that.
Yeah, the story of PoE is not like a narration by like one old guy who's reading out a book, but it's a dialogue between the players and the developers. It's a coexistence. You brought up a lot of valuable points, and I don't think I have one particular I want to hook in, but I want to backtrack a little bit to Arch Nemesis, because while you said all these things, and you specifically also said that that there's like a list of 80 plus Arch Nemesis modifiers, which like really make the whole system defeat its own purpose, because like GGG said, they wanted to simplify the system of rare modifiers. They wanted to enable players to, with a single glance at the monster, know exactly what it's doing. And I think we've all concluded that that is a goal that they have not accomplished with the current state of Arch Nemesis, because I think I can speak for everyone on this podcast when I say I still don't know what half of the modifiers do. Maybe not half, but there's a significant number of modifiers that I don't know what they do. But I realized while we were talking about this that there are modifiers that I know what they do. And those are mostly the ones that, like Ice Prison or the Kitava, Shikari, Arakali touched ones, spawn a ghost of the boss and do have very visible animations. Those ones work well, and I recognize them without reading the mods when I see them. And I think those ones are in a good place, but they shouldn't be mixed up or, what's the right word there? Compounded, conflagrate? I don't know. They shouldn't be mixed with mods that give the monsters just a list of stats. The ones that give them a list of stats are also fine, but they should be kept separated from the ones that have like an actual visual impact. And there needs to be a better way for us to actually read up what the stat lists do. Like something like Frostweaver, right?
I would say that in my opinion, for clarity in a design, you should never really need to be reading a list of stats. There should be visual and auditory indicators for every single mod applied to a monster.
Yeah, and so the thing, expanding on that slightly, the things that are like list of stats are like, this thing has less effective chill and does this amount of cold damage and has some extra cold resist and stuff like that, right? There's a thing like that. Well, the one mod that actually does cold stuff that we know, that could be the only cold mod, and it could do those things, right? It could still have its list of stuff.
I mean, the general rule of thumb with these Arch Nemesis, like, I mean, if this is something lightning related, it's gonna take less lightning damage, do more lightning damage, and same with I mean, they're color coded, right? So you get the gist, what they're gonna do, but you just don't know exactly the numbers. But I mean, on the glance, purple, chaos, okay, well, something like that. So in my opinion, I mean, it's not so bad, because you can see they're kind of color coded. It's not so bad. I mean, would it be better if they would be clearer? For sure. But again, because I'm also not paying so much attention to these things. I'm just blasting, I'm killing things, and so I don't really think that much about these intricacies. I mean, at the beginning of the league, which I was really surprised, because people told me that they nerfed Arch Nemesis last league when they introduced them, but then they reverted all the changes for this league, and I was like, and league start was really bad. League start with Arch Nemesis this league was, I mean, even white maps were like, holy shit, like, if this is how hard it is, like, how am I even gonna ever get to red maps? And then they nerfed it. The big nerfing happened, and then it was okay, fine. I don't really care. After that, I didn't really care anymore. They were. I guess they were so mild compared to how they were before. And I was like, yeah, you know what? They're color coded. I know.
Do you actually prefer it as in a state where it's like largely inconsequential, or do you miss a little bit of the aspect of how threatening it was?
Well, as a softcore gamer, if nothing kills me, I'm happier. Basically, I'm happier if I don't die in a map.
Yeah, less friction. Less load screens. Less friction and less load screens, I said.
Yeah, I mean, you still get combos where you know that they're gonna be dangerous. Like, you get a 3 Arch Nemesis mod essence with 5 essences. You know that guy is gonna be dangerous, so you better pay attention. Or some, I mean, there are certain combinations. You've already learned certain things when they're together. they're gonna kick your ass. So you're paying more attention. But before that, it felt like every arch nemesis monster was super dangerous, and it was like I'm not getting anything out of them. Yet, like, my maps are taking super long because these guys are so overtuned, you know? So yeah, I prefer them how they are now. Because there are still some things that are dangerous, but you can't be dangerous all the time. Everything can be dangerous. Like, it's too much. It's like, what am I getting out of it for this game? It's like, bosses should be hard. Maybe some of these very rewarding rares should be hard. But, like, every arch nemesis mob, like, should look at me and I die? Like, come on. Even in softcore gamer, that's not acceptable, you know? When you're playing a squishy character, that's just too much. There's too much. So I prefer it how it is now.
I just think about how many times they really want us to stop in a map. So I think about it in terms of if they want to slow down gameplay by making something that really makes you stop and think, then the amount of time that I have to spend on that, I need to be still getting as much money as if I'm running more maps. So basically it needs to be like more valuable that I'm spending more time on this, not less valuable.
So thinking about that, I feel like you can fix two problems with one change. There's that problem, and then there's also the loot goblin problem of, like, you know, if you get a touch mob, that's where all the loot from your next 14 maps are coming from. You better get that. It's really just a distribution of reward problem. Because if you run 100 maps, it's not unrewarding now. It's not like it was suddenly rewarding before and it isn't rewarding anymore. It's that my 100 maps, I had 3 different maps in that 100 set that had one rewarding mob in it that gave me everything. And those 3 maps were good, and I ran 97 that were bad, and that's because of that problem. But that's the same solution for both things. Those loot problems, like, they could be like 30% as valuable.
We had Arch Nemesis last league without the recipes, right?
Yeah, so
it's doable.
So the loot goblin reward could be like 30% of what it is now, right? So it's just like a little explosion. You could take the other 70% of those rewards and just spread them over all the arch nemesis mobs so that they were all at least a little rewarding instead of just having goblins. And now everything is more rewarding when you do have to stop and work out how to kill this rare and actually play around it because it's way more difficult. It has a much higher chance of actually being rewarding. And because your loot goblins are only a third as rewarding as they are right now, it no longer feels mandatory to go and pick up a color to be like, oh, but that's all my rewards for the next 30 maps. If I get a color right now, that'll be, 90 maps worth of loot extra. Well, if we lower that to like 30% of what it is, you won't feel like going to get a color for that.
I want to go back to what Ma was saying about how if the 3 Arch Nemesis mods plus Essence, that guy's going to take a while. So I was thinking about that and I was like, okay, so the thing is that Arch Nemesis is difficult and a lot of the time it slows us down, especially when it was really overtuned every single Arch Nemesis, so every rare was slowing us down. And we saw that as a problem because we weren't mapping, and then in this league we weren't even getting currency from them or rewards of any kind. The question or like the quandary that I see coming from that is that it's the base game, right? In maps, in endgame, we have already introduced like how many sets of league content that sit on top of that and will co-occur in a map so that you don't just have rares as a stopping point, you've got essences as a stopping point, you start seeing delirium mirrors, you've got abyss, you've got all these other stopping points that also slow you down. And now you have every single rare in the map also slowing you down. Like, how many things in the map need to slow you down? Because no one is like going into their atlas and speccing in and saying, I do not want to see a single piece of league content ever. That's not how anyone engages with the game. I don't even think it's possible to completely remove it because you still have masters popping up.
Yeah.
How many stopping points, as you define them, like for rare monsters that are not from league mechanics or anything, would you think are acceptable? So assuming that the rewards are in check, right, that you're adequately rewarded for the time spent, how many monsters per map would be fine creating a sort of, take a step back and reevaluate the situation and maybe reposition a little bit more
I
than
think
you
that
usually
needs
do.
to be
in the
measured.
situation.
I couldn't tell you a number off the top of my head.
Off the top of
And
my
I
head,
think
I
it
would
would
say
be
0
different
to
from
3.
tier 1 to tier 16, right?
So assuming you're
Well,
not
like-
unreasonably overgeared, like, in endgame when you already invested like 80 divines or plus into your build, and assuming you're not pushing ahead undergeared and underleveled, I think like 0 to 3 would be fine. But yeah, it really depends. It's not, can't just get one number. But
All of
Yeah,
these things are a bit
it's got to
relative.
vary, of course.
Yeah, they're a bit. I mean, it's all relative. Like, what's your gameplay level really? Like, what kind of level of difficulty is gonna slow you down, right? Some arch nemesis monsters might slow me down, but definitely not gonna slow Balor down. Like, what kind of? It's all relative.
I mean, I
So
think
then, in
some
that
things they work.
situation, you have to think like, okay, so for that person that's gonna get slowed down, will they feel rewarded for having this more difficult content? Probably not, because for the way the rewards scale, mostly the things that are for any, like some pretty developed characters, if those things are not going to slow them down, they're not going to drop anything. So it's basically only people who get cucked are the casuals. Really.
yeah, it hooks back to the old problem that a good build in Path of Exile is a build that doesn't have to deal with any like offensive stats of the monsters, because you just kill the monsters before they do anything of consequence.
Best defense is good offense. But then my other point was when we talk, because Balor said like we need to equalize maybe the drops. One thing I noticed, because I don't pay attention to like min-maxing, all can go player here, right? The one thing I noticed that what really did equalize for me, didn't make it feel like, oh, I have to chase the arch nemesis monsters, they are the only things that drop things, is when you finally start going into endgame maps and farming altars from the Eldritch bosses. Because those things actually feel like you make a choice, you're going to get downside, but you are going to get rewards, and it feels rewarding when you stack a bunch of them. And because before, like yellow white maps, like you barely get any alks, chisels, how are you going to sustain red maps? And finally when you get to that point, but it's like a really long way for a casual player also. So yeah.
I have a question about your experience of altars, all of you guys. Do you remember what mods you selected? Is it written somewhere?
No.
Written? I don't know. I don't think so.
I
Well,
don't think
you can-
so. Like that, when you do expedition and you pick a thing and it shows you the little menu, but that was added after the fact. I feel like, because when I first started doing it, I immediately looked to the map mods to see if it had been added there, because that's something they do with Dark Shrines. They put the Dark Shrine mod where the mods go, right? And I was like, well, this is a new mod that affects my entire map. Why would you not put the map mod there? It's a map mod. It comes from an altar, but it's still a map mod.
Well, depends really. Some mods only affect the Eldritch monsters. Some
It's still
only
a map
affect the
mod.
boss. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
There are map mods that affect unique bosses that are written in the mod list. I'm
they
sorry.
could definitely add it. Yeah, they could
For
add.
Yeah,
sake
like,
of better
I just-
clarity, please
Yeah.
finish your
Yeah.
point first. Pi, you go. You wanted to say something still. You wanted to add something to what you were saying.
Oh my god, it was about altars and I've forgotten what it was.
Well, okay, maybe you remember when I quickly go on. Like, obviously, the best idea here, I wouldn't want to muddle up I wouldn't want to further make the list of map mods more confusing, because it already includes, like, the quantity from the map and a variety of other things. But the same thing that you brought up with Expedition, where you have the centralized thing that you can hover and have a list of the mods that apply, that should also be right up there, where you can expand and collapse the list of map mods. There should be another symbol that you could hover that would just show you all the alter mods that you have selected so far.
Yeah.
I'd be on board. I never have any memory. Sometimes you just run in the map and you're like, oh, I've just died 3 times in a row to mobs that should be pushovers. I'll bet it's an altar that I've done. I have no idea what it is, though.
Noodle. She was talking about magma barrier and she's like, I forgot, and then I get hit by a magma thing, and then I'm like, oh, right. And I was stuck there for a second because I think it stuns you or something. But yeah, from that earlier question around how many stopping points should there be, I think that's something that would require a bunch of study. I think it would be a very interesting project to do, actually, to like find like the peak experience, or like interview people when they start to and find out when they start to feel the frustration, and like, is this the type of frustration that you feel like you could work through? What would help you to work through that frustration, like more rewards, that kind of stuff. It'd be very, very, very fun study to run.
Yeah, to be clear, I really just mean the ones that you don't have any agency of engaging, right? Like, I think it's fine with the essences because you actually free them yourself. You can read the mods beforehand. You can, prepare. It's just when you randomly get stomped by an arch nemesis rare that has like a really deadly 3 or even 4 mod combination, it can be really unfun.
But I think that's similar to kind of one of my complaints, which is like, it's really just the mod combinations, and actually sitting down and having a look at the list of what mods are available and saying, well, when this occurs in this combination, it's pretty oppressive. Like, maybe we need to like gate that specific combination from happening until a certain point in the game.
It's interesting. Do you have any specific examples?
No, because as if I fucking know what it's doing to me, it just hurts and then I die.
I'd say
I'm
like
sorry,
the executioner.
I wish I did.
The executioner thing that switches off life recovery above half your life, that combined with like any degen mod, anything that like does like toxic poison stuff or like burning ground, I think that's pretty bad.
Fucking ground effects. Oh my god.
I guess that's a whole own topic to get into.
It's a whole nother thing.
Well, but didn't they, one of these like balance passes didn't they at least nerf how many defensive mods it can stack or something? They did something with Arch Nemesis monsters.
Yep. They nerfed any of the immunities. Nothing's immune to anything anymore.
They haven't changed.
Yeah, but
they just toned down the numbers on things, like things that were 40% less became 30% less, stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's why I was upset with it. So Neversink did this really wonderful, very thorough, well thought out threads on Twitter about the state of the game over the first couple of weeks. And one of them, he proposed that, an arch nemesis that rare that has 4 stats can only ever have 2 defensive stats and 2 offensive stats, no more, as a potential solution. Correct.
I thought they did that.
That'd be useful.
They didn't do that. He just said this would be a great solution. Then they came out and said all of these numerical nerfs are happening to the arch nemesis modifiers, and I was like, that's boring, because the problem isn't the numbers, it's actually like the combinations of them.
It still helped, but it wasn't it made it better, but it just made the problem better, didn't make the problem go away.
Yeah, it doesn't solve the problem because the problem isn't the number, it's the combination.
Yeah.
Well,
when something takes, it used to take like 20% less elemental and then 40% less cold on top of it, and your cold damage was screwed, and now it's like 15% less elemental and 30% less cold, and you're like, okay, so I do a little bit more damage now, but I'm still got this multiplicative damage reduction stuff happening.
Still see them adjusting these things, like the combinations for sure could happen, but also the consolidation thing, I really hope they at least look into it. Consolidating all the flavors of the same element, like just consolidate and move on. So much easier when you only have one of these things than 5 different things that you have to remember because they have slight variations. Well, one of them is, resistant to shock, and the other one to whatever that other one is, brittle. I was like, cool.
One of them has like 40% chance to not get shocked, and the other one has 40% less effect of shock. Like,
and then not affected by brittle, or like less effectiveness of brittle, or like reflects the ailment back to you. Like, dude, just
You're muted on stream.
Always when I go pee and I have a good paragraph that I'm bringing up, I'm muted on stream.
Right,
So for
now
anyone,
butcher it entirely.
yeah, no,
second
butcher it
time
entirely.
round.
So for anyone who's listening who didn't hear me talk because I was muted, Ziggy D made a really good video about how to fix Arch Nemesis a couple days ago, and he brought up a very relevant point to this discussion, which I want to quickly echo here, and that is the fact that fighting an Arch Nemesis rare doesn't feel like you're fighting a specific rare, but it feels like you're fighting the Arch Nemesis mods. And I think that's a point that really resonated well with me, because I want to feel like
I've
I'm
said that.
fighting.
Not in the same words, but I've said that. I was like, there is no identity to the monster behind these mods.
Yeah.
I talked about this with Bailey.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I said
like,
there's nothing unique about this monster. It's the thing that's annoying me, the thing that makes me stop is Arch Nemesis.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you basically paraphrased the
I'm
point.
glad
and
that more
made
people
sure
are
that
coming on
everyone get it.
board to the bandwagon.
And I'm sure that to a lot of people that sort of is evident, but maybe they're not as eloquent as you or Ziggy to put it into words to exactly like point to where the problem is. But I think a lot of people perceive that problem at the moment. It's like, no matter whether I fight like a toxic spider or a toxic zombie or a toxic goat, it doesn't change the fight. It doesn't impact how the fight goes. And that's sort of, I really liked, maybe that's a little bit too much of a tangent, but I really like Kirby's Dream Land 2. Does anyone remember that old Game Boy game?
My God.
Where you could swallow different enemies of like electrical type, fire type, stone type, and so on. And that would enable certain abilities in your Kirby, but also there was 3 pets that you could ride on. There was like a fish, a hamster, and an owl. And the different elemental ability or like different damage type abilities would combine differently with the pets that you could be riding on to create completely different ability skill sets. And something like that would be amazing for the Arch Nemesis system.
Okay, so now I have the single worst state of affairs. Diablo 3 does a better job of rare monsters than our current PoE. When you play Diablo 3 and you encounter the rare modifiers that could be on a mob, it matters what mob they're on. Some mobs are so irrelevant that you're only fighting the modifier because it was like a trash mob that you don't care about. Some mobs are more dangerous and do things, and now that entire fight is different because I now have to play around that mob type and also that modifier. And so the mob that it's on actually matters. Diablo 3 is doing a better job of rare monsters than PoE is.
I mean, there are some mobs that you want to avoid also in PoE. Like, you can have a monster, most of them are irrelevant, right? Most of the time you're fighting the mods. I mean, but there are the few monster types that will, because of them, the Arch Nemesis modifiers are kind of amplified, I suppose. There are very few monsters, but there are some, like, for example, that Skelly Cage thingy, it does like Cyclone, is super tanky. So it takes. And then there are some monsters that run really fast also, so you have to be, I don't even know, like I even had to spec, or like I had to get Hinder just to survive when there's like a speed mod on map or something like that, because they're going so fast that the chill I have on my character does nothing. They run me down.
Like rowers when they charge at you, but they've got hasted.
I mean, there are a few monsters that do affect a little bit, maybe, but definitely, like, most monster identity is just lost in Arch Nemesis.
That's what I was saying before about how GGG didn't really craft this experience for us. They came up with the mods and then they just applied them at random. We at least used to craft the mod, and we also knew what body it was going on to.
I don't think personally I wouldn't want to get old Arch Nemesis system back in maps to build mobs.
Oh no!
Someone has to be in charge of making them a nuanced experience. I don't care whether it's me or them, but somebody's got to do it, not the computer.
No, not the random number generator.
Random number generator.
Yeah, like you go through it individually, be like, okay, these caged mob types are super, super tanky. So we're going to make it so that they can't get gargantuan because it's ridiculous and over the top. Right?
Or Sentinel, or any of these stupid freaking block.
But then it can get this thing. And they'll be like, oh, it's quite slow moving though. So it's allowed to get the hasted mod because now it's dangerous. Because now kiting it is going to be a lot harder. And that's made a difference to this encounter. But can't get gargantuan because it's already super tanky, right? If you went through all the mobs and curated a list of allowed and not allowed, the entire experience would get quite a bit better.
I think it's a what would be great is if they looked at mobs versus mods, like the particular type of mod and the mod that it's allowed. And then once that has been passed, then you look at the mod combinations and how those affect.
Yeah.
Like, because you might not even need to say, like I was saying before, that maybe it's certain combinations of Arch Nemesis mods, but maybe it's just specific Arch Nemesis mods on specific mobs. Or maybe it's both. It's because they were really, really strong at one point. Like, I think it's probably both, but you could get a lot of it sorted out on the first pass.
I wouldn't like to see like all of the RNG taken out of it. Like, right? Like I wouldn't want to see, oh, it's the cage mob. It's always going to have these two. Like,
no, I'm not saying that.
That would be incredibly boring. But
I'm just saying, like, you have a table and you say it goes with these, it doesn't go with these.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not even like straight up exclusion or enable or disable, but maybe also just weightings. Like I'd be fine with like 1 in 1,000 caged skeletons being gargantuan.
I
just don't want it to be in every other map that has caged skeletons.
Or you say like this particular combination doesn't occur in any part of the game until you're in red maps, because in red maps you're able to deal with this stuff better.
Or you should be, at least. Let's assume. I mean, a lot of people nowadays are playing the game like that, you know, like they're playing the game like Balor and they want to be in red maps by day 1 or 2, but they're not like playing the game like Balor in the sense that they're actually preparing their build to be at that point. So they just keep on dying and complaining about that the game's too hard.
I accept my mediocrity and it is fine. I'm in red maps now. I think I got there a couple of days ago and I like this pace. Personally, it's fine for me. I feel inadequate by comparison to my content creator brethren. But it's okay. Like I'm not capable of more.
No, I was going to say, like, I actually enjoy this. I actually like having a justification for spending more time in white and yellow maps before I get into reds, rather than feeling like this big fear of missing out because I'm not rushing into red maps, which is where the content really matters. I think that is actually an unfortunate consequence of the current state of affairs, is that GGG has in the past done things that made it so that a lot of the fun and the rewards that are in the last part of the game, right, where you're working towards, a lot of this has been shifted into the early and mid game, and that's why people enjoyed the game so much in the last patch and the last 2 or 3 patches, because you were able to, even when you're in white or in yellow maps, you're able to invest into one strategy in the Atlas tree and do something profitable without having completely finished your Atlas progression and having completely finished your character progression and like having beaten all these systems. You don't need to get through all of that in order to have an enjoyable experience in the game. And yeah, to some degree that's gone now, I think. Like Harvest, for example, really doesn't feel worth doing unless you're in very high maps. I've seen what Balor gets in terms of life force juice out of the maps. Okay, please.
The harvesting? They buffed the harvest for lower tier maps because it was so unrewarding, and the only reward place was red maps. That people were saying, like, how are you even able, because before you found harvest in normal maps, you got a bunch of rerolls to craft your early gear. Now you got barely anything in white maps from harvest, like plots without dropping anything, like several plots. So they buffed it, and now it's actually because white maps are just, you blast through them, you actually get more by blasting a bunch of white maps from harvest than you would get in red map, because red maps you don't get, like, you maybe get 100 juice per plot, like 100, and I expect into harvest. I don't know what I mean. Then again, Alkengo gamer here, okay?
I'm
Don't
getting
really like
nearly
use
2K per plot. What are you doing?
just all can go gamer. All can go
per
gamer.
entire garden, not like per individual plot. But I'll get
All
somewhere between
gardens.
1,500 to 2,000 per garden, like per map.
No, well, no, I'm meaning per plot, like 100, 150 per plot. So you get 4 or 5 plots, you get like whatever you're getting. But all can go gamer here. But that's what I'm saying. Like, depends on your investment. Also, like, we need to manage our expectations as well. Like, you can't really compare yourself. Like, I can't compare my returns or whatever, or like to what Balor is doing. Also, so I'm always managing my expectations because, like, I'm thinking, like, well, how much time am I really investing? How much money am I investing? Like currency investing in my maps. Like, how much can I really realistically expect to get back? Like,
No, and that's fair, and it's great that you give me your point of view on the harvest thing, because honestly, I was like, talking out of my ass because it was rough on league start, right? I went into couple harvest, noticed it's not really worth it, and then instantly went into blocking harvest, and since then I have not interacted with harvest at all. I've just basically based my opinion on secondhand information. So
But,
if
I mean-
that's the case, that you're getting good harvest returns in white or yellow tier maps, then that means that was just a misinformed example, like an ill-advised example I shouldn't have picked. But in general, you would agree that a lot of the fun being in the middle part of the game and returns being in the middle of the part of the game has been shifted to the very end again with the most recent changes.
well, they kind of want you to get to red maps and farm end game kind of content, right? That's the whole thing. But still, I still think that because the time investment versus white maps versus red maps is just like, you can get currency for farming white maps. That's what I'm saying. You can get currency from white maps. You can farm content in white maps and still get profit. Just because of the time investment, it just takes so much less time to farm them. Like, so if you're struggling in trade, or even not in trade, but if you're struggling and you can't get your build, just stay in white maps and farm currency. Heist is amazing. Do heists, even if you hate it. Okay, don't do it if you hate it. But heist is really good currency generator. So
Heist
good.
is alright. I've been running Heist. I changed to Heist recently.
Too.
The problem is that every now and then there is like one arch nemesis rare in there that's like, ooh, and you're also stuck in a hallway, and it's and I'm like, oh, I'm dead now. Here's all of my currency. I just spilled it everywhere.
Yeah. That does happen with Heist, but generally speaking, Heist is like super chill, easy currency, man.
I think my chat will agree that I'm far too greedy, and it's my own fault.
No, never too greedy in Heist. Never. It's not a thing. Have to take all of the things. But
Yeah, I mean, in SSF, I've definitely been at points where I like exited a heist before I like started the lockdown timer. Just exited it to take the contraband symbol off the loot to make sure that if I end up logging to prevent my death, that I still have the exalt in the inventory. But I guess that's more like a HC
bothers
thing.
me that still exists, even though I think it's like Heist is kind of an awkward design, even in its current state. But to me, that seems like an exploit, not an intentional design feature.
Well, it's a trade-off because you have to walk out.
Trust me, I do it. We all do it because like
drop a divine.
But I
will go and lock that in just in case.
I think even during the announcement when they were describing the things to us, they intentionally told us we could walk out.
Yeah.
They said you could leave any time to save your loot. But you have to walk back all the way to the front and then walk back in again or give up the breakout. So like it was designed
on this podcast.
I think it's shit. I don't think you should be able to walk out either. But I also don't like heists.
It's terrible.
So.
The entire point is like this, if you don't make it out, you don't get to keep the stuff that you had. Like, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, but that's how it works after the lockdown timer started.
The argument that I would make is like, okay, so you dropped something that you want to keep. So then if you leave to lock in, well, that's it. You can't go back and finish the heist because
you can. That's
made the
thing.
choice. Yeah, you can now, but maybe you shouldn't be able to.
Conceptually, I hate the entire heist loop. Like, I just don't like the idea that if you're going to go in and steal something, that you would come out the way you went in. Like, fuck no, that's terrible strategy. You should be running in one long line.
And once you've got the thing, you're going to break out a window and leave and block it. You're not going to run back to the door.
If you were going to go back, especially if you killed people there, like, people will have discovered those bodies.
Yeah. I mean, let's not go down that route. I mean, the original concept of heist was much more appealing than what it is.
If I had to redesign heist, it would look quite a bit different. And then it would make sense that you couldn't just leave with your stuff and then come back and smash anyway.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. If I could redesign heist from the ground on up, I'd do it very different than what it is right now. But in the context of current heist, I'm kind of fine with the fact that you can, trade some time efficiency for locking in your loot early. And you can only lock in a part of your loot anyway, because there's still a bunch of things dropping after the lockdown timer starts. Most notably the quest item that you need to complete the heist to get the main reward, which is the experience and the rogue markers for having done the heist. And you're giving up quite a bit by locking in the loot early. So I'm happy with how it is in the current system, but you're right. If I think about it, on a principle sort of way, I probably would have done it completely different. I also
Let's remember that heist initially was different than it is now.
It had the alert system.
That
was actually interesting. It was badly done. It could have been polished. They removed it.
But it was so badly done because it basically disincentivized you to kill anything. But to get any kind of side loot, you had to kill monsters. So you would basically try to not kill anybody, get aggro monsters anyways because you run past them. There was no sneaking. And then if you wanted to get side loot, well, your alert level would jump up so high that it was... Basically, if you wanted to get to the highest target, it was well, do I even try to go for the side stuff? Because they see me, I kill one monster, it's barely can kill anything. And you would go for, try to open stuff after the alert, because, it just was so messy. It was so bad at the beginning.
The biggest problem with the original... Oh yeah, you go first, Pi.
I mean, I think the thing was, the way that alert should work conceptually, right, is that if someone sees you, they have a possibility of raising an alarm, right? Yeah. And that precipice is reached as soon as you you grab the item out of its case. Because, I mean, let's assume it's a contemporary museum and it's got a sensor on it. So then if you want to create this alert bar that goes up and up and up, as more people see you, then it definitely doesn't make sense that if you kill them before they are able to raise the alarm, that it doesn't go back down again.
Yeah.
But that was the problem with the implementation at the time. And instead, it was just people seeing you didn't raise any alert at all.
Yeah. I think another problem was the fact that the idea was that you're sort of supposed to sneak around the patrols, but the level design was the level generation was purely linear. There was only one way to get from the entrance to the loot and back to the entrance. So there was no way for you to outplay the patrols by running around things. So from the ground on up, it would have had to be designed differently.
It's a shame, because as a concept, it's quite interesting.
Yes, I personally would have liked a more unique concept to how the moment-to-moment gameplay of Heist turns out, but I think even more people would have ended up disliking it for it differing too much from the regular ARPG gameplay loop.
No, but if it would work that way if somebody sees you, but you kill them before they raise the alarm, that is actually pretty, it's pretty accurate to ARPGs, right? You kill monsters. because that's what you do in this game, right? Instead of disincentivizing you, because initially it was like disincentivizing you to kill monsters. You wanted to kill as least monsters as possible, interact with as least things as possible, so you would actually have enough chances to grab some loot before the alarm was set off, right?
Yep.
And now they removed that a lot because I guess they just like scrambled because people hated it so much, and also it was such a shit show at the league start. Was so many bugs that they scrambled so much. They was like, okay, we're gonna axe this whole thing completely.
Oh my god, the bugs! It was bad.
It's so
I mean,
rough
that league start was
because
so bad. Yeah.
the gameplay elements of Heist never did the massive like investment that they did into lore and NPC and dialogue. It never did it justice. Could have been such a massive league, and I think GGG also expected it to be like their most successful league. They put all their eggs into that basket, and I mean, really, from a lore point of view, from the dialogue, like the quality feel of Heist, it's so good flavor wise.
Mm. I read the NPCs. It's like, it can be not somebody's cup of tea for sure because of, Heist takes you out of maps and you have to level the dudes and have to make gear for them or so on and so forth. But I really liked it. I almost didn't even care that it was so buggy because I kept playing that league anyways. And I really like to listen to all the stories from all these NPCs. And because of this, we know that it's possible. I don't get it. How Calandra has like 5 lines in the game, like 5 lore texts, and that's it.
Well,
like,
you're the best. That's such a good segue. Going from how good Heist felt despite all the gameplay flaws, because it had enticing rewards and like other interesting stuff to offer. Segueing into Calandra, not having all these things to compensate.
I did want to say one thing in regards to Heist and the people, the NPCs. A lot of their voice lines revolve around mortal peril, like them being in mortal peril, which is fundamentally undermined by the fact that they can't die. And it probably would be more interesting if they could die.
Not decapitated, but like this, whatever that word is when they can't act.
Disabled?
Well, not disabled, but like this. I don't know the word. No, I just
discredited.
No. Incapacitated. There you go.
Incapacitated. That doesn't start with a D.
Yeah, no, I don't know why, but decapitated and this incapacitated was like. Incapacitated. Yeah, they could get incapacitated. That could be cool, and you don't get benefits from them anymore. That's also another part. You have to keep them alive.
That would go with their voice lines then, because exactly. I'm sitting here going to listen to Vindiri going, I'm too young to die, and I'm like, you're not going to die, I am. I'm going to lose everything.
You're immortal, buddy.
Fine. Fuck off.
I imagine how frustrating it would be, though, if they could die or be disabled. But what you just brought up with disengaged or whatever, it just reminded me so much of a conversation I listened to the other day, and that was about like Half-Life. You ever played Half-Life? Classic ego shooter game from 1997, I'm pretty sure. And the German version of Half-Life made it so that if you killed allies, like the scientists in the lab or something like that, instead of like, blood splattering on the wall and the corpse falling on the ground, they would actually like sit down, cross their legs, and shake their heads. And that's how the Heist members would have to die as well.
I'm not saying that we should make
the door.
I think it would be more interesting if there was like some way to like get them back online or something, but I actually just think that the voice lines do not match the gameplay, and that as much as I love them, it really fucking annoys me when they're complaining about, being in mortal peril when they're not.
But he wants a bath because he's stressed. And
I'm allowed he can say he wants a bath. It's when they say I'm gonna die, that kind of stuff. It just really annoys me.
Yeah, when they get
too young
attacked.
To die.
Yeah.
Yeah, just purely because they can't die. They're actually immortal. They do not take damage.
Yeah, it baits me, man. It is bait.
I can understand that, but I'm actually I like them flavor-wise so much that now I've always been willing to look past that flaw. But it's very valid.
Same. Yeah, I just like.
I yell at them when I'm doing Heist. I yell at them. When they yell at me, I yell back.
And
Okay.
nice, you're having conversation, actually engaging with the gameplay,
Yeah.
role playing, PoE.
As
Let's go.
opposed to Calandra, who we cannot have conversations with.
Oh
Yeah,
my god!
I was gonna ask. Are you actually? Do you yell at Calandra when you find her in the lake as well?
I yell,
mean-
please give me a mirror, please give me a mirror. Don't fly away and leave nothing behind, please. That's all I say.
And then nothing happens.
The ones that I like to actively engage with are the ones saying that they've run out of mana. Because most of the time, by the time they're done saying that they've run out of mana, like there is mana because there's a system. And we have access. And I know someone in chat's already said there's a way to disable that, but trust me, I prefer to argue with the. I'm an only child. I got to entertain myself somehow. But the other one that I like the voice lines of forever and ever and ever is the synthesis guy, like, and you can have conversations with him a little bit.
I mean, you know who's also had fun voice lines? Trial Master had fun voice lines also. It's like, oh, you fail again. Can't you get better or something like that? He was always telling you.
Yeah.
So like, oh, yeah, like if you choose to just finish the heist, like sighs, and it's like, I'm so disappointed in you. Stuff like that. He was real sassy. Sassy boy.
Oh, the Syndicate guys too. They have decent voice lines.
Yep. Syndicate also have great voice lines.
I can have a chat.
That's why I'm so disappointed with Calandra. It's like, how could they give us so little? So little. Even Kitten Cat Noodle barely can make a video with that. Like, what the hell is up with that? Just don't get it.
And such an important character.
Exactly.
So
On
important.
top of that.
Tremendously
It's like,
important.
did they write it and then, there is a piece from the game that's missing? You know how sometimes, like Metamorph League, for example, we thought there was going to be something a little bit more in there?
They should have. I think
like
pretty
that?
sure
'Cause I
it was
haven't-
supposed to be.
Really paid that much attention to the thing. Honestly, when I hit maps and I realized, because it was really disconcerting to me when I was going through the campaign, doing creating the tablet, that it meant that you immediately open the portal. So out of habit, I click the thing and it just pops out, right, as a little mirror, whatever the heck it's called, when you hit maps. And I was like, that's really weird. And ever since then, I just make the thing and then I put it in my stash and then it goes into the tab, and then I actually haven't run one since I hit maps. I should, because gear. I want to see those mists. But I am convinced that I'm not strong enough.
Well, I could tell you that I didn't get any mist where you put in your own thing, but I did get from the ones that I ran since I entered maps, I got 2 pieces of jewelry, and they're both absolute crap in comparison to the one that I got while leveling. The one that I got while leveling was so good, and now I'm continuously disappointing myself by expecting a better one.
Grinds my gears so much about this league, because every other league mechanic previously we are getting, excuse my French, but shit on by the league stuff. We're getting shit on, but remember Scourge League? You got so much Scourge currency. With Sentinels, so much Sentinel stuff you could farm, recombobulators, so much you could farm it. You can get a lot of that stuff. And here, where it takes you I don't know how many maps to make one, and maybe after the buffs, you can not have Calandra not leave you a mist to even get a reward. But previously you could run. There was out of 5, I only got 2 rewards before they buffed it. Why can't they give you? Because most of them are gonna be shit anyways. Because there's most of them are 2 upsides and 2 downsides, and most of the time they're shit. So why don't you give us more opportunities to get them?
Every second tile should have a random.
Most of them are gonna be shit, so you're gonna vendor them anyway. So I just don't get it. Why are they treating these mirrored items as they're so precious? Because
the ones we can bring ourselves, stupid amount of possibility upside. It's fine that they're giving me a random one. Super common. That should be every second tile. If I get a 10 tile one, I should walk out with 5 rings or amulets.
Like when you used to drop synthesis gear and not the fractured ones, but just the synthesis gear.
Shower us with that, please. I don't get it. I don't get this.
when we
Yeah.
scourged our items. We had heaps of stuff.
Yeah, I just this is like I don't really care about the tile rewards that much. Like I guess they're fine. But maybe the later tiles when the difficulty scales a lot, maybe they could buff it a little bit. But what grinds my gears the most is that those mirrored items. Why do they have to be so rare? Most of them are garbage. Like why? I don't get it. Like why is this league suddenly so different that you can't give us the things that you can only get from this league mechanic? They have to be so like inaccessible. Like I don't get it.
There's always like a chance. There's this tiny chance that you find like a 5 mod ring and they're all positive. And I probably wouldn't see one the whole league.
Yeah.
But if I was seeing 5 or 6 attempts per mirror, I'd be still excited every time I click the like, this could be the one. This could be the one.
And
it never
even
will, but
if you get the 5 upsides, even if you get, it doesn't guarantee that there will be good mods. Like there's a lot of like random mods that you will be like, well, it's beautiful, they're all upsides, but like, will I use it on my build? Probably not.
What do you mean? You didn't want double light radius?
Yeah. like maybe like, you know,
I'd wear that. I hate those dark zones.
I don't know. There's a bunch of like random mods, and they are not even guaranteed to be high tier mods. So you could get all upsides, but super low tier stuff. So it's like worse than a rare ring.
Plus
so it's like I don't get it.
Physical damage with attacks, yo.
This is one thing that grinds my gears the most. All the other things, like even Arch Nemesis, like who cares in the end? It's like whatever, dude. Don't even care. But this league mechanic we're playing right now, you better fucking give me the stuff right now. GGG, you're listening? Give me that stuff right now.
It's gonna be like Blight League, because I mean, from what I understand, because I did not actually play too much Blight League myself, but the league immediately following Blight League, when Blight got core, Blight was fun. You had access to maps, like all the things that were like constrained during the league itself was available. If this went to core, I bet they'd like buff everything and be like, cool, because then they would assume that you would only be coming across it sometime, or you'd be actively farming it. Like it's just weird that it's not when it's like the league.
I think they should, first of all, they buff how many mirrors you get, and personally I wouldn't mind seeing this in core game, but just like so few opportunities, and then most of it's garbage anyways. Why? Just don't get it.
It's especially weird when we know for sure that GGG is very aware of like these, like creating these reward moments, these like clippable stream moments, these share on Reddit moments, right? Where people get something incredibly good from gambling with Gwenin during Expedition, or from like making just the right Arch Nemesis combo in Arch Nemesis, or last league in Sentinel with the recombinators, right? Like most of the times you recombinated something, you were in for a big L, right? You'd lose big money on both sides, and the result would be trash. But there would be this 1 in a million chance that you get the outcome that you want, and then it would be super clip worthy and share worthy, and everyone would be like, even by proxy, pogging at it, right? And I just don't know how they missed the mark with this.
Going into a topic that we don't really have that much time left to talk about, it's funny to me that instead of having those clippable moments from these cool loot explosions or this like one great item that you got, what is currently marketing the game is feedback.
Here's a 70-page feedback document.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how much everybody should read that 70-page document, even if you just skim through it.
I'll read the condensed 6-page version by the original poster in the comments.
Oh yeah, at least that. It was one of the best reads I've ever had. It's one of the most researched and well displayed takes I've seen.
Some of the feedback that I saw in regards to that was that a lot of the issues he was talking about weren't his personal experience. He was basically recapping issues that Reddit was talking about, and I was like, if I was in charge of like actually trying to find out how this was being experienced, it would be much more interesting if you were talking about your own experience, so that I could then compare that to other people's experiences rather than you trying to speak for everyone. But
Yeah. That makes sense. As we're running along, I just looked at the clock and time flew in the last 20, 30 minutes. I had so many ideas of what we wanted to cover. But that's great. That's actually a positive thing because just 2 podcasts ago, I was like, how are we going to ever do another episode with just like getting like these small patches from GGG? We've already talked about everything, but you guys did such an amazing job at bringing your own angle to these points. Like, yeah, there's just so much good discussion that was had on this podcast. But without wanting to extend beyond our time constraints, would you quickly like to give us a closing remark, something satisfying to round it off in a positive manner, but to also maybe leave some food for thought? Mairian, how much are you still going to play in this league beyond getting your challenges? What are you looking forward to do still?
I mean, it usually takes me a long time to get the challenges anyways, because I take it, I chill in PoE. I don't like all the negativity that was going on. In the end, I'm in the boat. It's like, it's a game. You're supposed to have fun. And if you're having no fun at all, it's time to take a break, maybe. I mean, I know it's a meme, but like, how much, like, just think realistic, how much enjoyment are you getting out of it, right? So, but I'm having fun now. My character is doing great. I'm completing challenges. All the other things, they don't really bother me. Only Calandra. But yeah, I'm going to be playing tons.
Calandra is near and dear to all of our hearts. I understand completely. Yeah. But it's great to hear that you're such a bastion of positivity and that you're not letting the negativity take away your fun space that you claiming for yourself with the game. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, kudos.
Yeah, Pi, is there anything that you would like to say before we round things off?
I too am having fun. I'm playing more than I've been playing in a while. And as I'm an AlkaGo player, so I'm not the one suffering here. I'm suffering from a conceptual, it doesn't, what they're talking about is not making sense to me. And from like engaging it in an intellectual level. And my takeaways that I would like to say, the last thing, if I leave you with a piece of thing to think about, God, it's getting late and all my words are going in the wrong order, is if players are empowered by having their own agency, why is GGG so afraid to give it to people? It's a trend that they will give you agency in the league that the thing is introduced in, but quite often when making it go core in a way to like reduce its complexity, that agency gets removed in favor of procedural generation and randomization. So like that's what I would want to ask that. And also, if you really want feedback, please go about getting feedback in a way that is deliberate and structured, not just say we appreciate feedback and then have these flooded forums, Reddit posts, and social media, and of course the content creators going off tap on Twitch and YouTube. Like, if you want to do feedback, you need to start doing surveys and you need to start doing interviews with players and stop treating it like a game, for lack of a better term. It's not a marketing game. Like, we care. We want to give you good information, but if you don't ask the right questions, we can't give you the right information.
That's a very good sentiment, and I very much agree with that, because they do polls like every now and then, but it seems like it's much more an engagement farming thing rather than actually like trying to get player opinions on specific matters. And if they use their forum poll option a lot more frequently, I'd be shocked if they didn't get some valuable data, because I do think, despite all the negativity, the Path of Exile community is still one of the most constructive and one of the best at
very
bouncing back.
Very group of people. I think what I would love to stress is the value that can be gained from a one-on-one interview, and that you don't need to do that en masse, that you just need to have a good sample in order to figure out what questions to ask your survey. That's it.
All right. Balor, your closing statement in 3 sentences. Oh, wait. I didn't mean to cut off anyone. Do you have something you want to add?
They were both so positive, and I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to actively try to still be having fun. So I don't even want to tar the end of this with my like actual opinions. I'm still very sad. So I'm just gonna skip it.
Right. Well, in that case, there's nothing much left for me to say. And like I said, we're already running past our deadline. So if you guys enjoyed this podcast, make sure to give a follow to piebypie, to Mairian and BalorMage. I linked the things in chat, and there's also going to be the links on the description for the podcast, which will be uploaded in full to my YouTube as usual. You can also find it on almost all relevant podcast platforms. And this episode concludes our first 3 weeks speed run of as many episodes as possible. And we're not going to do an episode in the coming Wednesday. I hope you understand and you're not going to miss us. And you're going to take the opportunity to catch up with the episodes that you've missed, if there's any. And if you haven't missed any yet, then you can already mark your calendar for the 17th of September, which is going to be in exactly 1 week from now. We're going to do a 12 p.m. GMT podcast, and we'll be joined by Pox and Ziggy D to talk all things Path of Exile once again. And as this podcast has shown, there's no need to feel fatigue because there's so many interesting points and topics to still discuss from the different points of view in Path of Exile. And with that said, I wished you guys a wonderful league and playing time and all that, and may you find the positivity and the divines and the exalts that your characters need. Bye-bye. And thanks again to the guests. Thanks, Mairian. Thanks, Pi. Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
I'm clicking the thing.